Hello and welcome to Drilling Insight. I'm Jeremy Verdusco, host and editor of National Driller magazine. I'm joined today by drilling trainer, National Driller writer, and co-host Brock Yorty. How's it going, Brock?
Doing good, Jeremy. How are you doing?
I'm excellent today, and with us is Dave Bowers. Welcome back to the show, Dave. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm excellent. Just living the dream in quarantine, as I've said before. So Dave works as an instructor with the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 150 AFL-CIO, Apprentice and Skill Improvement Program. He also writes a column for National Driller. Now, Dave previously joined us on episode 1, part of a talk about COVID-19's effects on the industry. So a lot has happened since we recorded that episode, so we thought we would bring him back to revisit some of these topics. And as you can see, we all have our masks on for safety. So welcome, gentlemen. Thanks for coming back. So first off, Dave, can you tell me what has changed for you since we last spoke? Are you back to in-person training and work?
Yeah, we are back to in-person training and work, and you know, I can't even fathom how much has changed, right? The amount of things that we've been able to do. I at the time we originally talked, I didn't quite understand all it was going to take for us to go back to do this. Mm-hmm. And we're doing stuff that is common sense stuff. We're doing screening questions. We're taking temperatures. But the level of disinfectant, we're getting between 85 to 120 people a day, which is much lower than what our numbers were prior to SARS-2, COVID-19. Mm-hmm. But the amount of man hours it takes to do that training, right? Mm-hmm. Because now, keeping those people safe, social distance, instructors, are required at all times. Instructors have to wear an N95, mm-hmm. right? If we're dealing directly with a member. And we'll get into, I think, later, the differences on masks and why different masks are important. Mm-hmm. But we're also screening some real basic screening questions. Have you been in contact with someone that has notified you that they're showing signs of a viral illness? Are you living with someone who is showing signs of a viral illness? Are you feeling sick at all, right? And then go through the symptoms: cough, fever, sore throat, change in smell or taste, mm-hmm. right? Which many are similar to the flu.
Yeah.
However, the thing is, it doesn't matter at this point whether you show symptoms and it's the flu or it's SARS-2, right? It really doesn't matter if we screen you and you have symptoms, we can't allow you access, mm-hmm. right? People now are one machine. There's no moving from machine to machine, where before it was a little easier for someone, they want to work on this and they get on that after half a day. We try to limit that as much as possible now.
Yeah.
Hey, Dave.
And the big thing is, yes, sir.
Will you explain to our friends out there watching, what the training facility does, why this is important? You're saying jump from machine to machine, but why would they want to jump from machine to machine? What are you guys doing out there?
All right. So here's what we do. Now, my specialty is drilling, right? Water well, geothermal, geotechnical. But that's not all we do. That is a small portion of what we do. Every type of piece of heavy equipment that you'll see running, from cranes to paving equipment to bulldozers to loaders, right? We train members on being proficient on those pieces of equipment, mm-hmm. prior to them going to a contractor. Or if they're working for a contractor and need to improve their skills, they can come here all at free of cost. The contractor is paying as part of their benefit package, is paying an hourly rate into our facility. So all the training's done with no cost to the member themselves, mm-hmm. and part of their wage package through the contractor.
So
But
do you drive? You guys drive on concrete, go through cones, like that stuff? It's not like you're out there digging or anything.
no, we have 1,000 acres of whatever you'd like. If you wanna, dig 700-foot trench that's V trench, we can set that up for you. Now we would have to see that it was made sense and there was a reason that you had to do it that way. We might modify it to say, hey, this will help you more. But we have between administrators and instructors, we have 45 people who worked on average 25 to 28 years in the field before they worked here that will come in and help you with anything that you need. But that being the case, we get a lot of people in here that might be, especially now where work had went down. Now we've seen a lot of work come back. It's pretty vigorous where we're at right now. Many of our people didn't have any time off, but what we're seeing is they have a demand because work is so good. They need new people. So we have brand new apprentices or pre-apprentices coming in, and that we may have a limited period of time with that have to be able to perform once they hit the field. Well, COVID's made that a little harder to deal with because I can't take, for instance, what we talked about. You're in a machine. I used to be able to, you're running a bulldozer and we want to show you something. I could get in that bulldozer and show you what I want to show you. Now I have to get you out of it, maintain social distance, even though we have masks on, masks are required. Go over to a piece of equipment that the instructor has set aside for each type. So if we've got combos out there, we have a combo set aside for an instructor, right? And we have to show you on that piece because we can't afford for someone to get in after somebody else because of, if someone's asymptomatic, you have no way of knowing. And then I'm also part of our safety department. I facilitate our safety department, and we've been tasked with that, keeping everything clean, disinfected, right? So we have guys coming afterwards using a product called vital oxide, which is a disinfectant to clean the inside of machines, right? It takes 10 minutes of contact time. The inside of machines, we use vital oxide. We were using bleach on the outside of machines. We've made some changes with that. Now we're using a peroxide-based cleaner after washing everything with soap and water because you can't change from bleach to peroxide one right after the other. But, every time someone runs a machine, it gets disinfected. That's, it's labor intensive, but it's the only way with that many people coming through here that we can guarantee that we don't have an outbreak that affects this facility, and that's why we were off before. They were afraid of that. They're like, we don't know how to run a facility of this type without trying to do some different things. So they spent that 6 weeks or whatever that we were off trying to come up with ways that we could make this work. And then now we're just starting to do some classroom stuff at a reduced capacity. We've got our classroom set up that we're maintaining that 6-foot social distance. Inside the building is 100% mask. That's just how it is. The only time I'm allowed to not have a mask on is right now. I'm sitting at my desk in my office with the door shut. And so no one can come in and encroach closer than 6 feet.
Gotcha. So a lot of our audience has worked right through the pandemic just with some added precautions and risk mitigation measures. As this drags on, particularly in the U.S., do you see people paying the same amount of attention to these precautions as they did 2-3 months ago?
Well, it's human nature, right? You get tired of something that seems oppressive. And when you watch the news, what do we hear? We hear about COVID, we hear, right? But so people get a little desensitized and they get tired of it, and they want to go out and they want to do things and they want to have a better life, right? And our people that we're speaking to may have all worked through it, but they have spouses and they have, right, kids that have been home, and things are not normal. And that puts people at edge. And then what I've seen happen, I put it as kind of like parenting. The governors of your state is kind of the parent, and when he finally gets you out of grounding, right, which is the way that people are looking at it, when finally they're out of grounding, woohoo, we're free. Well, the right way to go about this may not be, hey, we're free. Hey, we have a little more leeway. We can do some things, but we got to do them sensibly. If we can't do them sensibly, try to maintain that social distance. Wear face coverings, right? One of the worst things that's happened through this entire thing is how politicizing the use of face covers, right? I understand both sides on what they're saying, but the fact is really that we can't afford to infringe on someone else's rights to try to exercise ours. And that's what we're doing. We don't put a face cover on. This type of face cover, the one that everyone's wearing that's just a cloth face cover, or even the medical type of face cover, all they're designed to do is keep the droplets from us from reaching out any distance. And since that's the case, they're not protecting us from other things. They're protecting, if Brock and I are together, I'm protecting Brock. I don't have a right to put Brock at risk, right? That's not one of my rights. I have a duty to try to protect him. And, it's not people who made it, not the average person who made it political. It was, decisions way higher up that had nothing to do with COVID.
On that aspect, it's because of our industry being tribal and the way we are, how our safety culture is from top down. This isn't any different than hearing protection, us hearing that I can't hear the machine right, so I don't want to wear hearing protection, or I don't want to wear a hard hat because I'm not going to be under a suspended load, or I know what I'm going to do to get out of the way. This is just one more component, and the more we're around that machine, hoisting or tripping a pump back into the hole or drilling a hole, we've gotten desensitized. And 3 months ago, we all stood here and went, I guess this is our new normal. We're going to do it. And now here we are. And what's crazy is the rest of our safety aspects right now in the summer, right, Dave? Like, we got to worry about not only face coverings and social distancing and our hygiene practices, but now we need to look at heat illness, severe weather. And this is distracting. It's not distracting, it's priority, but it's now we've added another, you wrote about the focus, the
code,
right? And now we're hyper focused on something.
Yeah, well, and here's the thing, that we talk about all of those things that, I don't wear my hard hat, and I was guilty, as a lot of people were, with the no earplugs, which is why I talk so loud all the time, right? I did all those things, and you talk macho culture. There's no one more macho than me, but well, maybe one or two people, well, not many, but I really have to look at that this doesn't end. The thing about all those other things, we think, oh, well, I'm at the rig and I know I'm doing this and my focus is this because this is the task we're doing. This is a different animal. We're not used to this kind of thing because the danger doesn't end. We go home, it's still the danger. Take a walk with the dog, the neighbor comes up and maybe they don't want to social distance the same way that you do. I find myself, everybody finds themselves when speaking to somebody and having to, and you have to take another step back because maybe you're at 4 feet, right? Those things happen. So a loss of focus on this is really easy to have because if we look at Cooper's code, the tighter our focus is, right, the shorter we can maintain it, right? So Cooper's code, if I get to what red focus, I'm looking at 2 to 3 minutes, I can be in red focus, right? Because what I don't see when I'm in red focus is this, right? I'm here, I don't see this. Well, the same thing. This requires more focus than we're used to at all times, right? And it's very easy in social settings and dealing with customers. Waterwell, dealing with customers, good standard operating procedures is maybe, you notify, not only do your employees have to always wear masks, this or that, but maybe tell your clients is that while we're on site, all interactions require a face covering, right? It's not a hard thing to do, and it's pretty easy to say, hey, look, and no matter what anyone's political belief, if you approach it that way, and I'm doing this for the safety of my clients as well as my employees, I don't know anybody who would back away from that.
Mm-hmm. So you had mentioned that, and probably both of you out in the field or interacting with other folks at your companies are wearing masks several hours a day. What are some strategies for coping with that? I mean, are you noticing any like brain damage or lack of oxygen to your head? Like what are some strategies for wearing a mask for hours on end and not making it feel like you're suffocating? Or is it just a kind of a suck it up buttercup?
Well, no, I don't think it's suck it up buttercup. You're going to have to find, if all you need is a face covering, find the one you like. Now, if it requires an N95, and these are hard to come by the way, right now. I had 5 real N95s, and then I have boxes of KN95s that I don't really trust near as much because the K and KN95s mean we didn't test it, right? There's no testing here. It just should be okay, right? But what I like to do, if I have to wear this means that I'm going to have closer than 6 foot interaction with somebody for a long period of time. The better this is, and this is really for me, you as well, Jeremy, I wear glasses, right? And Brock, on the job site, you got your safety glasses on. If this is the important part right here, a decent piece that can bridge the nose so that every time I breathe, I don't lose sight, right? But if I'm wearing that, it is suck it up buttercup. But if I can get by with a face covering, because we're still going to try to maintain social distance wherever possible or whatever, find one that works. A lot of guys have went to the fishing cover, the fishing ones that come up. They're much cooler. This, out of all mine, is not a favorite of mine. This is okay.
You're talking like the gaiters, right?
I like the little medical masks. They're very comfortable, and they do a fair job. And they have the little piece inside them. So it doesn't really matter if you got to wear it for a while. Invest in. I think I have 12 masks, right? These are good for a day, and they get washed and hung up and to dry, and then. Because I don't know what I came in contact with or possibly, so you've got to wash them. And that's one of the other things. People, I talked about disinfection and what we're doing. Simple washing works as well. It doesn't kill the virus. It just removes it. Well, if it's gone off and down the drain, it can't really affect us.
It's unique right now because we're in this abnormal operating condition. And masks and hygiene. And it's so funny because hygiene, health, safety, environment is not political. It's just a way of life. So now we're wearing masks and it's hot out. I'm in Florida. So, I'm in a huge threat level state, and it's 100+ degrees today with a heat index, we're looking at, with 110. So now our jobs take longer. And I think about this and I'm like, as a leader, okay, our jobs are going to take longer. We just got to plan for it. But really, with COVID being our new normal, Dave, you're in Wilmington, almost Chicago. Jeremy, you're Detroit, suburbs. We're all three in very high threat level areas of some sort of situation. And we all have seen where things take longer for us to go to the grocery store. If we go to the grocery store, I come home and I wipe everything down. Half of the time I've been wiping everything down before I put it in my vehicle. And maybe this stuff on surfaces isn't as serious as what it is, but I've just now allotted for that time. I've slowed down our operations to ensure safety and somebody getting sick or a family member getting sick or whatnot, because this virus is weird. And some people are getting really sick and other people are getting sick and then being in contact with a half dozen people, and none of those people are getting sick. So there's an X factor there, but this is the new normal, and we just have to treat it with the time that it takes instead of it being an inconvenience. It's a way of life.
Well, part of this, I think, comes back to, we talked about safety meetings. COVID should be part of a safety meeting. They certainly, a JSA of a job COVID should be part of it. You mentioned how hot it is. So in the past, right, I had a 10-gallon water jug on the rig. Shouldn't do that now, right? So now are we looking at, as a contractor, providing, bigger coolers to our team members so we don't have any sharing, right? Stuff like that. I had to stop apprentices the other day. They were coming, they get drug screened while they're still an apprentice at least once a year. So we had 4 or 5 that needed a drug screen, and a couple of them smoked, and one said to the other one, "Hey, you got a cigarette?" I'm like, "Are you out of your mind?" Right? And he's like, "What?" I says, "Okay, did you wash your hands before you pull a cigarette out of that pack? Did he wash his hands every time before and after?" You're intentionally putting stuff in your mind, and they had never thought of it that way, right? And just little things, but those are the type of things that slip by somebody's, because in other things, these guys were very engaged, staying 6 feet from each other, this or that, but then they went back to a habit, something they had always been able to do. "Hey, buddy, you got to smoke." Mm-hmm. And now we have a potential risk, right? So we have to look at all those little things, and that's really, I think, where we're slowing jobs down that already would slow down in the heat, right? Mm-hmm. But the COVID protocol might slow some things down, but on a business standpoint, the COVID protocol also should be reimbursed because everybody's doing the same thing.
Okay. Well, with that, we will wrap up. I want to thank you again, Dave. You were there at the beginning as we launched this, and so we do appreciate your continued support. And where can the audience find more about you and the skill and apprentice skill and improvement program?
Well, you can look on Facebook. I'm on Facebook under D. Bowers, or you can LinkedIn under D. Bowers, or local150asip.org. I'm also the administrator of our Facebook account, or one of the administrators. And you can find me on the pages of the National Driller when I actually, put an article up that Jeremy deems worthy.
Well, I do appreciate your input. And one thing I thought was super interesting was just the levels of preparedness and attention to detail that you have to go through to continue to train during this. I'd never really even thought about disaffecting the cockpit of a machine that you're using or the controls. Brock, what did you find interesting?
You know, the level of discussion we're having now versus where we, everything was hypothetical 3 months ago. And now, we joked it was our new normal. Now it is. We're looking 2020 will be this way, and 2021 will be likely. I believe our lives have changed. I think that's what's interesting to continue this conversation.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well,
I had a discussion with our coordinator today, and we kind of feel the same way. We're a year or two. We don't know what it's going to be like, but we know it's not going back to what it was.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thanks again. And don't forget to visit nationaldriller.com for the latest industry news and for more conversations like this one, of course. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And until next time, this is Drilling Insight.
Stay safe.
Stay safe, everybody.
Wear a mask.